Welcome to today's deep dive. We are jumping right into something pretty massive today. I want you listening right now to feel like you're sitting right here at the table with us as the third person in this conversation. Because our mission today is basically uncovering the ultimate cheat codes to reality.
Yeah, and it's not a small stack of sources we're pulling from either. I mean, we're looking at a huge variety of esoteric texts, ancient scriptures, and even modern psychological analysis.
Right, like we're talking the Yoga Vasista, Taoist manuals on Wu Wei, the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. We've got teachings from Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and Sai Baba of Shirdi, plus the mechanics of Kriya Yoga.
Exactly. It's a massive, incredibly diverse stack.
Yeah.
And the specific goal here is figuring out how to stay connected to what these traditions call the source, the void, the guy within, but doing it 24/7.
Without having to retreat to a cave somewhere.
Right, exactly. How to play the game of life with the effortless mastery of an avatar while you're actually living in the modern world.
Which is huge, because I want to set the tone right away for you listening. Even though these sources come from all sorts of different religions and mystical traditions, we're looking at them completely impartially today.
Yeah, we're not treating them as religious dogma at all.
Not at all. We are looking at them as contemplative technologies, like
Yeah.
literally as instruction manuals for debugging the human operating system.
I love that framing
Yeah.
because that's exactly what they are.
So here's the hook, right? What if the anxiety, the friction, and, the constant stress of your daily life isn't a sign that you're failing? What if it's literally just a symptom of running the default settings of a cosmic simulation?
That is the big question.
And what if you could just, I don't know, flip a switch and play life in God mode?
Well, to understand how to actually achieve that 24/7 connection, we really have to look at the ultimate case studies. And the Yoga Vasista gives us this incredible contrast between a normal human mind and essentially a pre-downloaded divine mind.
Yeah, and we start with Prince Rama, who, in the epic, isn't exactly shining with divine light right out of the gate.
No, not at all. The text purposefully strips away all of his god armor right from the beginning.
He's basically going through a massive quarter-life crisis, right?
Exactly. I mean, he's experiencing agonizing existential dread. He looks at his royal duties, his wealth, and the whole machinery of human life, and he just refuses to participate. He falls into this deep depression.
Which is so relatable. Like, you see the treadmill of life and just think, what is the point of any of this?
Right, and the intervention here is fascinating. Sage Vasista is brought in, and he doesn't just hand Rama a list of rules to follow or give him a pep talk.
He doesn't say, hey, cheer up, you're a prince.
No, Vasista systematically dismantles Rama's entire ego. He uses logic, he uses these incredibly deep parables to prove that enlightenment isn't just handed to you because of some divine birthright.
You actually have to do the work.
Exactly. It's won through intense human self-effort. The term of the text is Purushartha. Vasista spends nearly 29,000 verses breaking down Rama's operating system.
29,000 verses. That's a lot of therapy.
It's massive. But by the end of it, Rama's mind is upgraded. It becomes this crystalline mirror that reflects absolute truth.
But then the text contrasts this immense struggle with Krishna, and Krishna is completely different.
Right. Krishna is the archetype of an avatar who is essentially born with God mode already turned on.
He has the pre-downloaded hardware.
Exactly. Krishna doesn't have a localized human ego filter at all. He is literally the waking state itself, just walking around inside the dream.
Which means he can jump into wars and massive political conflicts entirely effortlessly.
Without any internal friction, yeah.
So, wait, just to use a gaming analogy here, it's like Rama had to grind for thousands of hours for experience points to unlock the highest level, while Krishna just spawned into the game with admin privileges and all the cheat codes.
That is actually a perfect way to put it. Exactly.
That almost seems unfair, though.
It does. But here's the ultimate takeaway for the listener. By the end of the text, Rama and Krishna are at the exact same level of consciousness.
Oh, wow. So there's no difference in the end result.
None at all. No one gets a free pass. Whether you grind or spawn with the codes, the potential exists within you right now to become a Jivan Mukta, which means someone who is liberated while still living.
There's that crazy detail about Krishna, right, to illustrate that frictionless mind.
Yes, the text highlights that Krishna mastered 64 arts, the Kailas, in exactly 64 days.
Which sounds like magic.
It sounds like magic, but it's really a demonstration of perfect assimilation. It's the ability to learn and absorb reality without the friction of a separate, insecure ego getting in the way and saying, oh, I can't do this.
That makes so much sense. So if Rama proves that anyone can do the work to upgrade their consciousness, I think the logical question you'd ask next is, well, if I'm already whole and I can't fight the universe anyway, why bother playing the game at all?
That is the ultimate trap of non-dual philosophy. And it brings us to this concept of Leela, or divine play.
Right, because we are so obsessed with finding meaning.
We really are. We want life to be this cosmic test, or a school where our souls go to evolve and learn hard lessons. But in the Mandukya Karika, the sage Gaudapada just completely smashes that obsession.
His logic is actually kind of devastating when you read it.
It is. Gaudapada says, look, if God created the universe for a purpose, like to test us, to learn something, it inherently means that God lacks something.
Because you only have a purpose if you are trying to fulfill a need.
Exactly. A desire implies a state of incompleteness. But the absolute, the source, is already completely perfect and infinite. It lacks nothing.
So if it doesn't need to test us and it doesn't need to learn anything, why does the universe exist?
Gaudapada's conclusion is that the universe isn't a test at all. It is an overwhelming overflow of joy, energy, and pure creativity. It's bursting into this grand hallucination.
So the universe split itself into trees, stars, and, into you listening right now, just for the thrill of experiencing itself from a billion different angles.
Just for the sheer joy of it.
Yes. Which brings up this crazy paradox that the sources mention about rebellion. Because if it's all a play, you can't actually go against the universe.
Right. Even when you are rebelling or self-sabotaging or making what you think are terrible mistakes, you are still just playing out a coded path within the total field of consciousness.
A wave cannot escape the ocean.
Exactly. It's impossible.
So for you listening, this means the pressure is entirely off. You aren't here to pass some cosmic exam. The universe just wants to know what it feels like to be you.
That's a huge relief, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the sources use this beautiful analogy of the dance of the flame.
Oh, yeah. Explain that one.
Well, fire doesn't burn to achieve a goal or get a diploma. It burns simply because it is the nature of fire to be hot.
Just like a musician doesn't play a song just to get to the final chord.
Right? If that were the goal, they'd just hit the last key and walk off stage. The point of life is simply to live it. The playing of the notes is the purpose.
Okay, so once you actually understand that life is this fictionless play, the immediate next step is the how. How do we actually access the source code of this reality?
Right, how do we get right access to this system?
Exactly. And the sources all point to this universal procedure, right?
They do. In Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, this procedure is called samyama. And we can really break it down into modern contemplative tech.
Let's do it. What's the first step?
The first phase is dharana, which is concentration. It's the act of fixing your awareness, like a very tight torch beam, on one specific point.
Just wrestling the mind away from distractions.
Yes. And once that beam is completely steady, it shifts into dhyana, which is meditation.
And the text described dhyana as a continuous flow, right? Like pouring thick oil.
Exactly. It's a continuous, unbroken flow of attention, a one-to-one ping rate with the object. And if you hold that long enough, you hit the third phase, which is samadhi, or absolute absorption.
And this is where the me completely vanishes.
Right. The user interface drops away entirely. You bypass the ego and gain direct right access to the object.
What blows my mind is the brain imaging studies that back this up. Because when they put advanced meditators in fMRI machines, they see this spatial dissociation happen physically in the brain.
Yeah, the superior parietal lobe, which is the spatial orientation region of the brain, essentially falls silent.
It just shuts down.
It does. It stops processing the boundaries between where your body ends and the chair begins. The brain literally can no longer locate the dividing line between the self and the world.
So it physically induces an absolute state of holism. You really do become one with everything.
Biologically and experientially, yes.
And that leads right into Kriya Yoga, which was revived by Mahavatar Babaji. Paramahansa Yogananda talked a lot about this.
He did. Yogananda emphasized switching off the five sense telephones.
Right. Sight, smell, taste, touch, sound. He said if you switch those off through pranayama, you stop the biological static.
And when the static stops, the kundalini energy can rise, and the mind goes completely silent.
Okay, but I have to push back on this. Because if we are literally switching off all of our senses, aren't we just falling asleep? Like, how is this different from taking a really good nap?
It's a totally valid question. But the difference is conscious awareness. When you sleep, the peace you experience is subconscious. You only know you were peaceful after you wake up.
Oh, I see.
But in these practices, you are consciously experiencing the peace. You maintain full, vibrant possession of your mind.
You don't lose the light of awareness.
Exactly. You become the pure witness. You are wide awake to the silence.
That makes total sense. So we know the mechanics now, but the sources give us an entire arsenal of 24/7 protocols, right? Different exit ports to hack the system depending on your psychological makeup.
Yes, and that is so important because not everyone's brain works the exact same way.
Right. So let's look at the specific methods. The first one is from the Vigyan Bhairava Tantra, and it's basically the breath gap protocol.
Yeah, this is a purely anatomical stillness hack. The text tells you to focus entirely on the V-turn of your breath.
The micropause, right?
Exactly. There's a split-second pause at the very top of your inhale, the inner void, and another split-second pause at the absolute bottom of your exhale, the outer void.
Why does focusing on a tiny pause do anything?
Because moving breath equals moving mind. The egoic narrative requires the physical friction of moving energy to sustain itself.
Oh, wow. So when the breath literally stops for that millisecond, the mind loses its fuel.
Yes, the mind is starved of its momentum. And in that tiny gap, you experience the Bhairava consciousness, the pure void.
And as you practice, that gap kind of stretches out into your daily life.
Precisely.
Okay, but what if focusing on the breath isn't your thing? The second method is about spacious awareness and observation. And I love Eckhart Tolle's analogy for
A
this.
furniture analogy, right?
Yes, Tolle says most of us identify with the furniture in the room, our thoughts, our emotions, our bank accounts.
Which are all fragile and constantly changing.
Right. But the hack is to identify as the space in the room itself. The space doesn't care if a chair breaks or if a new sofa is brought in. It just accommodates everything.
That connects perfectly to the ancient Taoist practice of Sinzai, which Zhuangzi called the fasting of the mind.
Fasting the mind. I love that phrasing.
It's actively starving the intellect of its need to judge and categorize every single thought. You just observe them as objects in space.
Which is very similar to Bodhidharma's wall gazing in Zen.
Very much so. Bodhidharma stared at a blank wall until his internal and external screens merged.
Because the brain was getting zero new visual data, right?
Exactly. The 3D depth perception literally collapses into a flat screen of pixels. You stop being a person looking at a wall, and you just become the sheer act of looking.
That is wild, but again, very clinical. What if someone is highly emotional? The sources pivot to what we can call the universal matriarch and surrender, focusing on Ramakrishna and Sai Baba.
Right, because for an emotional temperament, you need devotion. Ramakrishna tackled this by replacing what he called the loner ego with a ripe ego.
So what's the difference between the two?
The loner ego feels isolated, constantly defending its borders against a hostile universe. But Ramakrishna trained himself to see the entire universe as a living, breathing person, the Divine Mother Kali.
Which totally removes the us versus them filter. If the universe is your mother, you are just a child sitting in her lap. That's the ripe ego.
Exactly, you are perfectly safe. And Sai Baba of Shirdi took a very similar approach with his two main pillars, Shraddha and Saburi.
Faith and patience.
Right. And there is that amazing metaphor of him literally grinding wheat.
Oh, right, the grinding of the wheat. Explain what the stones represent.
Sai Baba would grind wheat, and he explained that the lower stone is karma, our past actions. The upper stone is bhakti, or devotion. And the handle you use to turn the stones is jnana, or wisdom.
So you are actively grinding away your karma and conditioning between devotion and action.
Yes. And to keep the mind steady while doing this, he gave his followers a mantra, just constantly repeating Sai Sai.
Because the mantra acts as a solvent. It takes up all the RAM in your brain, so the ego has no room to boot up its anxieties.
That's exactly how it elevates your consciousness.
So we have the breath, we have observation, and we have devotion. But the fourth method is the path of action, for the people who just need to be moving and doing things.
This is the Taoist concept of Wu Wei, combined with karma yoga.
Wu Wei is often misunderstood as just being lazy.
Very often.
Yeah.
People think it means non-doing, but it actually means effortless action, acting without the friction of the ego.
We can call it the fluid machine. It's like stepping back and becoming the watcher while your body's muscle memory just navigates obstacles automatically.
Like water flowing around a stone in a river. The water doesn't strategize or complain. It just adjusts perfectly.
When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. That synthesis is amazing because whether you use the breath, spatial awareness, intense devotion, or effortless action, they are all literally just different prisms translating the exact same raw white light of the source.
Yes. They are all pulling power away from the ego and rerouting it to pure presence.
Which brings us to the deepest part of this whole dive. We've talked about attaining the state, But how do we live a zero residue lifestyle?
Because that is the real goal.
Yeah, nobody wants to just sit in a cave permanently. For you listening, you need to know how to build a life, run a business, raise a family while staying in this state.
And that state is known as Sahaj Samadhi, the natural state.
It's the master setting for the avatar.
Exactly. It's not a zombie trance. It's the state you live from while you are making deals, laughing with friends, and driving your car.
You are the electricity simply pretending to be the appliance.
I love that. And to do this, you have to shift from friction-based action to radiance-based action.
Right. Friction-based action is what most of us do. I must work because I need money, or I need validation, or I'm afraid of failing.
It's driven entirely by a sense of lack. Radiance-based action, on the other hand, comes from a place of absolute wholeness. You say, I'm complete, I lack nothing. So what would be beautiful to create today?
The ultimate example of this from the texts is King Janaka, right?
Yes. Janaka ruled an entire empire. He managed armies and wealth, but he did it with a mind completely free of ego. He had zero personal sense of being the doer of the actions.
He was just playing his role in the simulation flawlessly.
Perfectly.
And Sage Vasista gives a very specific protocol for maintaining this kind of presence. He calls it Nirmala Darpana.
The pure mirror. It's such a brilliant concept.
So a pure mirror reflects whatever stands in front of it with absolute perfection. If it's a raging fire, it reflects fire. If it's a flower, it reflects a flower.
But the crucial part is what happens when the object leaves.
Right. The microsecond the object is removed, the mirror retains absolutely nothing. It is instantly blank again.
And that is the secret to the zero residue lifestyle. You handle the bricks of daily life mechanically. You process the argument at work. You pay the stressful bill. But your mind doesn't move.
No karma or emotional data is recorded in your source code. You don't take it home with you.
You are perfectly clean the moment the event ends.
Okay, but this is where I really struggle, and I know a lot of people listening will too. If I become this pure mirror, and I genuinely don't care about the outcome of anything, won't I just become incredibly bored? Like, won't I just stop wanting to participate in life at all?
That is the ego's favorite argument. But the Ashtavakra protocol shuts that down completely.
How so?
Ashtavakra points out that boredom is actually the very last defense mechanism of the dying ego. When you drop the heavy burden of needing life to provide you with meaning, you don't become apathetic. You act for the sheer sake of play.
Oh, I see. It's like going to a murder mystery costume party.
Exactly.
You don't sit in the corner analyzing how the plastic badge isn't real and the murder isn't real. The fact that it's a game is what gives you the freedom to put on a ridiculous accent and play the character with massive passion.
The playing of the game with absolute passion is the joy itself. You wear the costume of your career or your relationships simply because it's the theme of the party.
You no longer need the game to validate you, so you can finally play it flawlessly.
You are totally free.
Wow. So to synthesize this whole journey for everyone listening, we started by realizing that we all have the exact same hardware potential as the great avatars. Whether you're grinding through depression like Rama or effortlessly flowing like Krishna.
We saw that the universe isn't a test. It's a divine play, a Leela, where the pressure is completely off.
We looked at the practical mechanics, hacking the code through the breath gap, spacious awareness, intense devotion, and the fluid machine of Wu Wei. We literally handed out the cheat codes to the simulation today.
And we showed how to live it daily through Sahaj Samadhi, reflecting reality like a pure mirror without accumulating any residue.
But there is one final, almost provocative thought we have to leave everyone with. It's the ultimate deconstruction of the whole spiritual trap.
Yes. The mirror at the altar.
Break that down for us.
Throughout history, people have sat outside temples, begging a distant deity for a rescue rope. But the true realization is that the statue on the altar, whether it's Rama, Buddha, or anyone else, is just carved rock. Its only purpose is to serve as a mirror reflecting your own original light back at you.
The savior you've been praying to is currently wearing your skin.
Exactly.
Which means the universe is basically playing a grand game of hide and seek with itself. The seeker and the sought are literally made of the exact same photons. God intentionally put on this incredibly complex human mask just to see if it could get lost enough to make the finding feel like an absolute miracle.
It is the ultimate magic trick.
It really is. So I invite you, as you step out into your day-to-day, don't walk out as a stressed-out character just trying to survive the game. Walk out as the director of your own reality and play it flawlessly.
It's your game to play.
Until next time, keep diving deep.